Hey guys, Alex with Rapid Fire Rundown. Today, I'm going to be bringing you guys through a story, the issues I've had with Dan Wesson in the past, a revered 1911 manufacturer that people say is above Springfield, above, of course, companies like TSOS, and it bridges the gap between production guns and then moving into like custom 1911s. They can be had for about $2,000, depending on the model, sometimes less. And specifically, we're going to be discussing the Dan Wesson Specialist. So I don't currently have the Dan Wesson Specialist. It was the 5-inch model 10 millimeter in black. I don't have that anymore. Now that's foreshadowing. I, of course, got rid of it because it didn't function. But I want to bring you guys through that story of my trials and tribulations with the platform. So quick video, but let's jump into a little bit of background first. At a young age, I was obsessed with 1911s, right? Through video games, media, and shortly after moving up to a state that allowed the purchase of firearms, I actually purchased my first 1911. Um, Before that, I had this right here. This is a Airsoft 1911 A1, which definitely contributed to the obsession I had with the platform when I was really heavy into airsofting. But the first 1911 I actually purchased, real 1911 I actually purchased, was the Dan Wesson Specialist 5-inch 10 millimeter in their black duty coating. My friend and I were talking about our love for the platform, and neither of us had 1911s. Now, 45 ACP is, of course, the traditional cartridge John Moses Browning intended for the platform. 9 millimeter was introduced in, I think, about the 50s with Colt models. 9 millimeter has been in 1911s for a lot longer than people realize. And 10 millimeter, the significance of that was really because of law enforcement shootout, and law enforcement looking to move to the 10 millimeter cartridge to increase the lethality and get maximum temporal cavitation, maximum penetration. That's a whole funny story. 10 millimeter is too strong for the Fed boys' wrist, so they moved down to 40 Smith and Wesson, but that's neither here nor there. We decided on the 10 millimeter because we live in a place where bears and moose and deer are actually prevalent. So we wanted these kind of as backpacking guns or camping guns, but also just because 10 mil 1911s are such a unique offshoot of the platform. There's really not that many out there. So my buddy, he actually purchased his first. He said, I purchased a 10 millimeter, 10 millimeter, 10 millimeter Springfield operator. Sent me a message and said, bitch, which means I then have to do my part and buy my gun. So I went out and I found a Blem Dan Wesson Specialist in black 10 millimeter 5-inch variant. I'll put a picture on the screen now. Now, I got the firearm, and I was ecstatic. The fit and finish of the Specialist is phenomenal. I wish I could show you guys. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't have it, but the finish was excellent. I could tell that it was very high quality. The fitment was great. I'm not going to say it was the tightest pistol in the world because this Gold Cup national match right here is a phenomenally tight 1911 that I see people disagreeing with online, but mine is incredibly tight. But the Dan Wesson Specialist had a phenomenal trigger. It had a phenomenal blending between the magwell and the frame and the slide, and everything was coated properly. I can't speak nothing but great things about the platform. Now, the first hurdle I had was actually finding holsters for it. The Specialist uses a proprietary rail, or rather, I guess the dimensions are just slightly different. What that means is finding a holster for your Specialist is a bitch. I had to get mine custom ordered. I don't know who it was. If I find it, I'll link it on the screen now. But I ended up getting it custom ordered through a pretty popular company, and they sucked ass. It took like 6 months for me to get my holster. It was really expensive, and when I got it, it was dog shit. The pistol would constantly scrape into the kydex, and I'd pull out pieces of the holster every single time I drew my weapon. It was quite literally negligent to carry around. So I had this pistol, and I couldn't even carry it. But anyway, the first month or two of me owning the firearm, I didn't end up getting to shoot it up until the probably the end of the second month. I had a myriad of different ammos. I had Underwood, I had Fiocchi, I had Blazer, and my friend had Cellar and Below. So we go to the range. His 10 millimeter operator runs damn near flawlessly. Nowadays, I've noticed a couple issues when I go to the range with him, which I'm thinking is maybe just like a mag related issue or an ammo issue. I see some hiccups, but his operator has been a quite phenomenal pistol. I'll have to get my hands on one of those eventually. Now, Dan Wesson was a non-starter. I couldn't get through an entire mag without having one, if not multiple, failure to enter battery. So the round coming from the magazine and just kind of peeking into the chamber, right? Obviously causing that malfunction, as well as failure to feeds and stovepipes. Now, your natural reaction to that is going to be, hey, your magazines are inadequate. The ammo is inadequate because 10 millimeter is a very 10 millimeter is a fascinating ammo type where it varies with 300, 400 pounds of foot energy. It varies in whether it's a rounded bullet, a flat nose bullet. It can go up to 800 foot-pounds of energy, down to like 4 if you find the weak shit. 10 millimeter is really hard to spring correctly. I actually have a weapon I'm going to be purchasing through Alchemy Custom Weaponry, and they have an excellent video series on this where Rob talks about the tribulations of 10 millimeter, and he says, yeah, don't do 10 millimeter because there's just so much variance. It's almost impossible to do correctly. But if you're selling the handgun, I expect it to function at the end of the day. Okay. So I couldn't get through an entire mag, and I put 300 rounds, I would say, at this point. I get home, I made Reddit threads, I made numerous threads looking into having people help me diagnose the issue to see if it was ammo, see if it was mags. I purchased new mags. So I had Chip McCormick, I had Wilson Combat, and I had the mags they provided me. For ammo, I had Underwood. I also purchased Buffalo Bore ammunition, which is very high quality, incredibly hard to shoot ammo, but really powerful. So it wasn't an ammo thing. I go back to the range. I didn't call the representatives at this point, but I go back to the range and I put more ammunition down range, and once again I can't get through an entire mag. The most consistent malfunction I had was actually the last round of the mag, just refusing to enter the chamber and causing malfunction in the firearm. That's the one that happened every single time without fail, which led me to the diagnosis of the magazine being incorrect. But once again, I tried between multiple different manufacturers of magazines. So, like any rational person, I reached out to Dan Wesson and I said, hey, I need you guys to fix this. I sent it to Dan Wesson. A couple of weeks later, they responded back and said, everything was fine, bro. We test fired your gun and we were not having any issues. However, we polished your feed ramp. I'm not going to rant too much on polishing feed ramps. Polishing feed ramps aren't something you do to fix an issue. Polishing feed ramps are just an additional, right? It can technically aid in the function of the platform, just make it a little bit smoother. But if you need to polish a feed ramp to fix your gun, then you really messed up in the building process. And that's directly from a lot of really high-end 1911 manufacturers. I didn't just make that up. So I get the gun back and I think, awesome. Feed ramp is polished, looks like a mirror shine. Let's go to the range and try it. Well, I go to the range and the same exact thing happens. I can't get through an entire mag. I am getting constant failure to feed, as well as stovepipe malfunctions. And this is with, once again, this is with flat nose, this is with round nose, high pressure, low pressure. I'm using synthetic coated bullets as well, just to try literally everything. And I couldn't get the issues to stop occurring. So I call Dan Weston and I send it back to them. And I say, hey, the same issues are happening. I need you guys to fix this. This is a $2,000 gun. When this gun came out, I think it was about 2,200, if I'm remembering correctly. My blem was 1,900, and the only reason it was a blem was because there was like a scratch in the paint of the lower frame that I actually never even found. So honestly, I think they sold me a new gun and they called it a blem, or their QC is just that tight. If their QC is that good, though, they shouldn't have sold me a fucking broken gun. So I get my Dan Wesson back. Um, Probably a month goes by. I get my Dan Wesson back. I don't remember what was on the paper at that time other than saying it works. We shot it at a target. I think they provided me the target and they said that it worked. We didn't have any malfunctions. Hey, I'd like you to put 50 rounds down the pipe to really test that theory instead of like the 4 that you shoot at the target. But regardless, I get the gun back, I go to the range, and it just doesn't work once again. At this time, I actually had the holster. So the compounding element of my firearm not working, as well as a holster that I had to muscle out of my pants to actually get my gun on target. And there's like little white flakes everywhere because it's ripping Kydex out. It was an incredibly frustrating experience. And as my first 1911, as someone that holds a 1911 very dear and like dear to his heart, I was so disappointed by myself buying a semi-boutique 1911 from a company that's supposed to make really high quality platforms, and it's just not functioning. At that time, I brought it to my local gun store. I put it on consignment, and I think someone purchased it for like $1,900 or something, and it came with the extra mag, so I probably lost like $200 or $300. Bear in mind, Dan Wesson wouldn't actually refund me for the platform. I think I inquired in my second email, and they said they wouldn't be able to do that because, well, it's functioning properly. So that's my story with the Dan Wesson specialist. A lot of my friends and people ask what I think of Dan Wesson, and I think they're fucking garbage. I posted on Reddit a couple times saying stay away from Dan Wesson when people are looking for recommendations, and everyone's always like, "What are you talking about? You're a little tactical commando. You just like Glocks." I love Glocks, but I also like guns that work properly. Speaking of guns that work properly, this Colt Gold Cup national match right here. Colt was the OG manufacturer of 1911s, right? We all know that. Um, if you're a 1911 guy, you owe it to yourself to own a Colt. But many people look at the Colt Gold Cup, Colt trophies, and they say that Colt kind of maybe not fell off, but just that they're not as good as the others in the price range. This gun will run you, I'm just going to say like under $1,500, between 1,000 and 15. I think I got this one for like under 12. This is the Gold Cup National Match model, and I can't sing its praises enough. It is a incredibly tight firearm. Don't listen to anyone that says the Colts like rattle. I don't know what they're talking about. The side to side, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but very light clicking, very light clicking. When I like a harmonica, not a harmonica, like a maraca, obviously there's a little bit of side to side, but I consider this on par with the Dan Wesson. And most importantly, it works. I'd much rather take a 1911 that's a little bit looser than something like your Nighthawk, like your Alchemies, that is guaranteed to work. The only time this gun has ever malfunctioned is when there is so much dirt in the magazine from me dropping it at my dirty gun range that I push the mag into the gun and I can just like feel dirt getting into everything. And that's a mag issue. That's kind of the crux of the 1911 platform is mags always plague it. Make no mistake, the 1911 is less reliable than a Glock. Just kind of is. It's less reliable than a Glock or an M&P or whatever a lot of other polymer frame guns, HKs. However, if you take care of your 1911 by just lubing it and cleaning it every once in a while, and you especially take care of your mags, you have one of the most, guys, at two world wars, right? You have one of the most reliable platforms on the planet. So that's my little story, guys. Stay away from Dan Wesson. If you're looking for a quality 1911 at a appropriate price, pick up this Gold Cup national match. I'm on a 1911 kick recently, and I'm going to spoil my one of my upcoming videos for you guys. I may have a interview as well as a product from Alchemy Custom Weaponry coming up soon. So, as always, it's been a pleasure. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy my channel. We're over 1,000 subscribers. Channel is fully monetized. YouTube fucking hates gun reviewers, unfortunately, so they keep trying to flag my videos, and I always put them up for review. But your support is greatly appreciated. I'm really surprised this channel has kicked off so quickly. So comment and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.